use this? Students ask their teachers this question a lot, and especially American students. They don't want to learn things that they're not going to use later. Is this going to be on the test? Those tend to be the Chinese students. They only want to learn things that are going to help them to get better grades to get into a good university. And yeah, it's not going to be on the test, they just don't want to learn it. So is learning only important if it can help us to advance in some way or to benefit ourselves? So when the Romans started conquering, they took over many Greek places, cities and states, and the Greeks were obsessed with knowledge, and they wanted to learn just for the sake of learning. So for example, you had the Pythagoreans. They were basically a math cult. They owned an island, and when you wanted to join their group, you had to give them all your money and join them on the island. And basically, you had to promise to never share any of your knowledge with anyone outside the island. So the story is told where one day a man said, "How can we ever use this knowledge?" And the leaders got his money, gave it back to him, and said, "If you only care about money, leave us." And they kicked him off of the island. The Romans were the exact opposite. The Romans didn't care if there were an infinite number of prime numbers. They didn't care about solving pi to 20 decimal places, but they did care about the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem you could use to build bridges and structures and things like that. So it was practical. And if they knew that pi was about 3.14, then that was good enough for them. The Romans were excellent at practical math. And many of their... Okay. I tried to do that. All right. So many of the aqueducts and other structures that they built more than 2,000 years ago are still in use today. So which of these attitudes towards learning is right? Is there a right answer? Does learning just have to be about getting some external benefit? What about the learning just for the sake of learning? So almost 3,000 years ago, the wise King Solomon of Israel said, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. To search out a matter is the glory of kings." To search out a matter is the glory of kings. There is great joy when we learn something new for the first time, and even more so if we are the first person to discover something. So we already mentioned the Pythagorean theorem. Something closely related to that is called Fermat's last theorem. So this was written about 1637 in the edge of a book by Pierre de Fermat, and it was discovered after he died many years later, about 1670. So Fermat's last theorem says a to the n plus b to the n equals c to the n has no integer solutions for n is greater than 2. So Fermat was a great mathematician and basically a jerk. He liked proving these theorems and then not telling anyone how he did it, just to make fun of the other mathematicians. So basically he wrote in his book, "I have discovered a truly marvelous proof of this, which this margin is too narrow to contain." So for over 300 years, mathematicians tried to prove this theorem and to see if he had actually proved it. It was finally proven in 1995 in a 129-page paper by Andrew Wiles. And the fact that someone proved this is probably not going to make a difference for almost anyone on the planet. Right? But can you imagine for Andrew Wiles solving this hundreds-year-old problem that many, many, many had tried, and he'd been spending years of his free time? Can you imagine that feeling when he finally proved this? So I read a quote about education. "Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." And this is often attributed to William Yeats, although he probably didn't say this. But as a teacher, if I just get you to learn some formulas and pass a test, I fulfilled part of my responsibility, but I hope that it's so much more than that. I really hope that students can gain a love for math and see some beauty in math and learn how to problem solve and how to face new problems and think in new ways. For me, one of the most recent things I learned was the Rubik's Cube. Control Z. All right. First time I saw Euler's formula, right here, e to the I pi plus 1 equals 0, I thought this can't possibly be true. And yet, later when I saw how to prove this, I thought, that's pretty amazing. So, learning new things is great. And so, for me, one of the most recent things I learned was how to solve the Rubik's Cube. Need some help. Alright, so I first picked up a Rubik's Cube when I was about 5 years old. My older brother had got one, and I tried to solve it, and neither of us were close at all. We basically moved things around, and never were even close to solving it, except the old Rubik's Cubes, what you could do is they didn't have colored panels, they had stickers. And so when me and my brother wanted to solve it, we would take off all the stickers and put them on in the correct position. I don't think most people would consider that as having solved a Rubik's Cube. So later, this is something I always wanted to learn how to do, and about a year and a half ago, I thought, you know what? I'm finally going to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So I went online, I found some videos, and for about a week, I spent a lot of time, and there were a lot of frustrating moments. But after a while, I finally got to the point where I could solve a Rubik's Cube without looking at a video or having anyone explain to me. And is this going to help me to get a better job? Is this going to help me pass some tests? Probably not. But the first time that I was able to solve one of these on my own was really a great feeling when I could do this. Again, not going to help me later in life in any way, but learning that knowledge was, it was really a great feeling. So recently, a kid named TEDxYouth learned how to juggle 3 Rubik's Cubes while solving them. And I thought, man, that would be incredible to be able to do. All right, so do you want to see someone juggle 3 Rubik's Cubes and solve them? Yeah. Oh, did you think I was going to do that? No way I have enough time to learn how to do that. All right. But humans have an innate desire to be amazed. We want to see things and learn things that fill us with awe. We want to see huge waterfalls and canyons. We want to see beautiful sunsets and new animals. We want to be amazed by arts and music and movies. So we have this desire to be filled with wonder. So back to my question about the Romans and Greek philosophies towards learning. Should we only learn things that we're interested in? So I had a course in college where we were learning some computer software, some new program, and I wasn't interested, and I thought I'm never going to use this again, so I didn't work hard at it. And it turns out almost every job I've had since then, I've had to use, Microsoft Excel. So I didn't learn it at the time, and later I regretted missing that opportunity. So one of my friends here, many years ago, he told me that his dad refused to learn how to use an ATM. So, for you young people, an ATM is something old people like me used to use. You took took out something called cash. We use that cash to buy things. So, okay. So, all right, I know with WeChat wallets and Alipay, it's not very important anymore, but many times my friend's dad would stand in line for up to an hour just to take out 200 kwai, all right? Because he never learned how to use an ATM. So, years ago, I had a friend who wanted to do a PhD in philosophy. And my thought was, that's great if you're okay possibly having to work at McDonald's because your major doesn't really prepare you to do anything. So she wanted to learn it, but the fact is we can't just learn things that we're interested in. You can't just keep playing League of Legends hoping to make it as a professional gamer one day because for most of you, it's never going to happen. So one of my friends in Los Angeles, he knew some people who had moved out there to try to have the rock band get signed by a record label. And he said they've been trying for over 10 years, and my friend's like, dude, if you haven't made it in a decade, give up and become an accountant or something. But the reality is, we often need to learn things that we don't want to learn, or that we're not interested in, because they will make our lives better in many ways. But we shouldn't just learn things that are there to benefit us directly, to help us make more money, for example. Knowledge of all kinds will benefit us. And wisdom is when we learn how to apply that knowledge in the best way. So back to King Solomon. He had this to say about wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. And whatever you get insight. Prize her highly, and she will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place on your head a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. So go out, learn, grow, create, discover, and have fun. Thank you.